You spend countless hours analyzing a conflict, rehearsing defenses, and searching for the logic behind the controller's irrational behavior, yet you never reach a conclusion or find a way out. Why does your mind feel trapped in an endless loop of confusion? This is the dark, psychological paradox of mental maze construction, a calculated narrative labyrinth.
You know, this feeling of being stuck, it's just baffling, and it is absolutely draining. It's like this very specific kind of mental quicksand. The more you struggle to think your way out, the deeper you sink. It goes against your own reason, your memory, even your own sense of reality. So in this explainer, we're going to dissect this whole phenomenon. We're going to map out the maze, identify the architect's blueprints, and most importantly, we are going to illuminate the path out. So let's start with that core feeling, that sense of being trapped. Look, this isn't just a simple disagreement or a communication breakdown. It's the experience of running into an invisible wall again and again and again. Even when you come armed with logic and facts and a real desire to just resolve things, it feels like an unsolvable puzzle because, well, it was meticulously designed to be one. Your mind is trying to solve for X in an equation where the variables are constantly being changed on you. And that right there brings us to the central paradox we're digging into. Why is your rational mind, your ability to reason and solve problems, so completely defeated by what feels like intentional chaos? See, your brain is a sense-making machine. It's hardwired to find patterns, to reach conclusions. It wants things to be coherent. So what happens when it's forced into a system where there are no stable patterns and where no valid conclusion is ever allowed? Well, to understand that, we need to look at how the system is actually built. This brings us to the architecture of the trap itself. We're shifting from the feeling of being lost to understanding the blueprints of the maze. You have to get this. This is not random confusion. Oh no, this is a deliberate, systematic construction, and it's designed for a very, very specific purpose. Let's put a formal name to this: mental maze construction, or MMC. It's what's known as a cognitive abuse tactic. The whole strategy is to deliberately overload your mind with complexity that you can't resolve. And the entire point is to push you into a state of chronic rumination. You know, that feeling of thinking about the same thing over and over, you just can't stop, which inevitably leads to profound exhaustion. And the goal of all this? It's brutally simple: control. But it's a very specific kind of control. It's control through mental imprisonment. I mean, think about it. If all of your mental energy, all your focus, all your problem-solving skills are completely consumed by trying to solve this internal impossible puzzle, what energy is left to assert your boundaries? What focus do you have left to plan an escape, or even just see the situation for what it is? The answer is none. Your own mind becomes the prison, and the manipulator doesn't even need to guard the door. Now, this is so important because it shows you how the maze is actually built. There are 3 core elements. First, you've got circular argument loops. This is when a conversation never, ever resolves. The goalposts are always moving, the topic gets switched up, and no matter what you say, you always end up right back where you started, having achieved nothing except wasting your energy. Second, there's contradictory information. The maze is just filled with conflicting facts, with gaslighting, where things you know happened are flat out denied. Key pieces of information are just left out. All of this makes it impossible to form a coherent map of reality, and it forces your brain into total overdrive. And third, the high-value prize. This is the bait. The manipulator dangles this false promise, peace, validation, a final resolution, and they frame it as the reward for solving the maze. And that's what keeps you engaged, searching for an exit that was never built in the first place. So we've seen how the maze is built, but how does it actually trap your mind? This next part is all about the lock-in mechanism, the process that takes all those architectural elements and turns them into a psychological prison that feels absolutely impossible to escape. This whole process happens in 3 really predictable phases. Phase 1 is labyrinth construction. An unresolvable problem is thrown at you, and immediately your brain's natural drive for things to make sense kicks in. You feel this deep internal need to solve it. This leads straight to phase 2, ruminative lock-in. Your mind gets completely stuck. You're just in this constant loop of analysis, replaying conversations, trying to fit pieces together that just don't fit. You're locked in because that prize, it seems so close, but the goalposts are always moving. And then comes phase 3, cognitive exhaustion. The constant high-intensity mental work. It's just not sustainable. It leads to decision fatigue, to just profound mental depletion. And at this point, you're so exhausted that you might just give in to the controller's reality simply to get a moment of peace. Let's just pause for a second on this crucial concept, ruminative lock-in. This is the engine of the entire manipulative process. It's a state of chronic, high-intensity analysis that just spikes your cognitive load through the roof. Think of your brain's working memory, its RAM basically, as being completely hijacked by a single malicious program. All of your available mental energy gets eaten up by this one puzzle. There's no room left for anything else. No creativity, no joy, no planning for your own future. It is, quite literally, mental hijacking.
And this just brilliantly illustrates the dark genius of this tactic. The cognitive exhaustion that comes from that ruminative lock-in, it is not an accidental byproduct. It's not a bug in the system. It is the core feature. The entire construction is designed to produce the state of mental depletion because an exhausted mind cannot fight back. An exhausted mind can't hold boundaries. An exhausted mind will often surrender just to make the pain stop.
Okay, now that we understand the maze and the mechanism that traps you inside of it, let's shift our focus to the architect. What is the manipulator's endgame here? I mean, what's the psychological motivation behind building such a cruel and complex trap? Because it's about a lot more than just wanting to win an argument.
This slide just lays out the fundamental conflict perfectly. On one side, you have the manipulator's goal, low effort control, and a stable supply of attention. The maze is incredibly efficient for them. It keeps your attention fixed inward, on the puzzle, not outward on their behavior or their accountability. And on the other side, you have the target's vulnerability, a natural human drive for rational sense and a need for closure. The maze is specifically engineered to exploit that drive, basically weaponizing your own intelligence and conscientiousness against you.
And the long-term psychological result of this is a state we call learned helplessness. This is where a person, after repeated failed attempts to solve the unsolvable and escape the pain, essentially, they give up. They're conditioned to believe that their efforts are useless. So they surrender to the controller's arbitrary rules, not because they believe them, but because just complying becomes the only way they see to escape the continuous mental torture of being trapped in that maze. Okay, we've defined the maze, we've examined its construction, and we understand the motivations behind it. Now, we are shifting to the most important part of this entire explainer, how to get out. The tone here changes from analysis to action. This is the strategy. This is your escape plan. So here's the crucial point. You cannot win this game by playing it better. You can't outlogic a system that is fundamentally illogical. You can't find the exit to a maze that was built with no exit. True defense requires a radical refusal to engage with the complexity on the manipulator's terms. The only winning move is not to play.
So how do you do that? Here is a clear 3-step plan. Step 1, identify the circularity. You have to pay attention to that feeling of conversational déjà vu. When you notice the discussion has looped back to a previous point for the 3rd time with 0 resolution, you have to name it, even if it's just to yourself. This is a circular argument. This is a mental maze. Step 2, use an external fact marker. This is critical. Get the cognitive load out of your head. Write down the contradictions. This creates a stable external reference point that anchors you in reality and stops that endless rumination. It proves you're not imagining the chaos. And step 3, enforce the non-negotiable exit. This is the hardest part. You have to assertively disengage from the conversation without trying to get the last word or provide one final perfect logical summary.
And here is a powerful script you can use to do just that. I see that this discussion has no resolution. I am choosing to disengage now. Just notice the power in that. It's not a request, it doesn't blame or accuse, it is a simple statement of observation and a declaration of your next action. It flatly refuses to engage with the maze any further. That statement is the key that unlocks the door, not by solving the puzzle, but by simply walking away from the chessboard. This brings us to our final section. This is about taking these tools and this awareness and making a fundamental shift in your mindset, from trying to find the exit to declaring that the game itself is over. So let's bring this all home. That feeling you have of being stuck, of trying to solve a puzzle with no exit, it's completely real and valid. You feel that way because that is exactly what mental maze construction is designed to be. The confusion you experience isn't your fault. It is the intended tactical outcome. And just remember this clear, predictable pattern. The deliberate labyrinth's construction, it's built specifically to force you into a state of ruminative lock-in. And that chronic mental analysis is engineered to cause one thing: profound cognitive exhaustion, which ultimately opens the door to submission.
But awareness is your most powerful weapon. It's what breaks the loop. By identifying that circularity and enforcing that non-negotiable exit, you are making a conscious choice. You are refusing to waste your precious mental energy on a rigged game. Naming the game is the first step to quitting it.
So, I really want you to reframe how you see that exhaustion, that deep, soul-crushing exhaustion you feel. It is not a sign of your failure or your weakness. It is proof. It is the evidence that you have been bravely and relentlessly engaging with a system specifically designed to create endless confusion and wear you down. It's actually a testament to your resilience.
And that leads us to the final empowering truth. You don't escape the maze by finding some secret door or by solving the final riddle. You break the maze the moment you stop looking for the exit, turn your back on the puzzle, and simply declare that for you, the game is now over.